welcome you all to our National Poetry Month event and to introduce our poet, Vera Schwarcz, who is a very old friend of China Institute. As many of you know, China Institute was founded in 1926 by two intellectuals, the American John Dewey and his student Hu Shi, who was one of the leaders of the May 4th movement of 1919 in China, with the mission to broaden the appreciation and awareness of Chinese culture among Americans. Their mission could not be more poignant today, as the relationship between the US and China is ever more intertwined, and the study of Mandarin is at the forefront of foreign language studies. Arguably, China has produced a significant part of the world's treasure trove of poetry, and if it were not, for poets and scholars like Vera Schwarcz, many people would not be able to enjoy or have access to Chinese history and poetry. Professor Schwarcz is the director of the Freeman Center for East Asian Studies at Wesleyan University and Mansfield Freeman Professor of History and East Asian Studies. She is the author of many books, including The Chinese Enlightenment, Intellectuals and the Legacy of the May 4th Movement in Modern China, and Place in Memory in the Singing Queen Garden. Most recently, Vera's two new works were published: Brief Rest in the Garden of Flourishing Grace, which is a collection of poems of remembrance and loss by the Manchu Prince Yi Huan, and Chisel of Remembrance, which is a collection of her own poems, which draw from roots in Jewish, Chinese, and other ancient traditions. Vera has been bridging languages and cultures for decades, and is in many ways the embodiment of China Institute's mission. We are delighted to have you back with us this evening to share your passion with all of us.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be at the China Institute twice in one semester. I was here a few months ago on a very cold day, and I was talking about the book about Singing Queen Garden, and this is a very different event, I hope. Can you still, I want to be hooked up, but let me know if it's hooked up. And I want to acknowledge many dear old friends in the room, but especially Rosiger Ibsen, the artist whose work graces the Chisel of Remembrance. We have been friends since she had an exhibit at Wesleyan. She is Romanian. She looks Chinese, but she isn't, or Korean or Japanese. But she's actually Jewish from Romania and a very accomplished, world-renowned calligrapher from Chinese tradition. Several painters are here, and I'm especially indebted to my dear friend Janet Luongo, also a painter, who has kindly agreed to video this event. What I want to do is begin with a few poems. We haven't time in this world of ours to love things at close hand, to palpate plentitudes of smallness. Once in my life, I would like to see lichen coming to being, spread upon a wall. What patience, what vigor, to honor nothing more than surface light. So light and patience go together. The next poem in this opening is a way for me to reckon with the sources of my own commitment to poetry. And when I decided to become a poet, there's a long story about becoming a poet in English, which is a dark and painful story. But I think poetry has drawn me for a very long time. And I think it goes back to when I was a child. And my grandfather was a sculptor, and I did not know him. But I recall very well to this day being 8 or 9 years old, and my grandmother brought down from the attic my grandfather's sketchbooks, just giant form sculptures. And in the dance of those lines, I think I recognized my calling, not as a sculptor, but as a poet. So this poem is called Hands. Your hands come to me, vain, strong tools for shaping wood. Hermann Schwarz, sculptor on your grave. I never knew you. You died in bed, a heart attack. Jews did not just die in 1944. You had a bit of protection, a local name as a candelabra maker, or shuls, an opera house. Today, it is not your name or the few remaining treasures left over from the war that greet me. Today your hands come, planing coarse lumber. Today you stand in sawdust, working an inlaid mirror. Mind's eye placing blonde shards of cherry along red sheaves of maple, bounded by black mahogany. Your mirror is a frame for these words, my tools for picturing eternity. This message of giving voice to what is gone, of course, is very important to me as the daughter of Holocaust survivors. Today is Yom HaShoah, a time of remembering for the Holocaust and many Jewish communities. And so I'm going to read a poem that I wrote in memory of my grandparents, our grandparents, my sister and my brother-in-law are sitting here, my brother-in-law survivor, my sister survivor. But it also mentions my mother and our mother. And since this book is now dedicated to the memory of our mother who died 6 months ago, the poem is called The White Button. My mother, 70 years ago, sat between her parents on a sculptured chair. The man in the stylish hat has one arm around the girl, with lace-up shoes, another on his waist, as if the world were a leisurely place where he might have taken out a gold watch, counted the minutes of daily lesson. His young wife holds the hand of their daughter, gazing inward, almost in a dream, not yet alarmed by war. A wig in her married hair slopes gently like a sumptuous robe, no armor against the ravage when it came. War comes to all her children, not just this serious girl in a dark sailor suit with one white button. Balance between parents she will not be able to save. War comes to all her kin and mine. I refuse to let them vanish speechless. I call them back on this page. I strengthen my hand around the child with dark eyes and old-fashioned lace-up shoes. Gone the aristocratic chair, gold chain, hat, wig. The white button remains, a posture of hope. The next poem is the title poem of this collection. It's called Chisel of Remembrance. It has an epigram by another Tang poet, Wang Chao. Your freezing scent lures few butterflies. How to fry open time. Crowbar of volition, too coarse. Tweezers of history, too weak. Chisel of remembrance, however, designed to scrape the face of blinded clocks, reveals a second pair of hands, well suited to give